Ah, where do we begin with this? Well, um, I suppose just to start with my own experience of trauma. Um, it's been something that I've lived with since I was 16, really. Well, actually, since I was born, I had a very traumatic birth and also was sent away to an English boarding school at 6 years old, where we were really tortured very viciously. And of course, you're 6 years old, you don't understand why that happened to you. Why are these fully grown men ferociously beating us? And I spent most of those years in absolute terror. And my only way of dealing with the trauma in those days was to dream. So my favorite thing was just getting to sleep was the relief. And in my sleep, I used to have the most delicious dreams. And I think that saved me. When I got to kind of the 15-year-old stage of so-called growing up, it was very easy for me to turn to drugs, and that's what I did, and alcohol, and very soon became kind of a very addicted person. And then something incredibly traumatic happened to me when I was 16. So my particular trauma was a sexual abuse and very violent attack when I was 16 years old, when I was threatened with a gun to my head that if I didn't do certain things with this man beside a cliff in Bermuda, he was going to throw me off it and I would die. So that's just very briefly what happened. So it was an awful thing, and it precipitated a lot more addictive behavior, precipitated all sorts of other behaviors which were for me, very shameful. But then I started at 30 to unravel them by going to therapy, and I would say still to this day that I am a human being in recovery. And I made all sorts of progress in those years after I started to have therapy. And I threw myself into all sorts of creative endeavors, had all sorts of extraordinary experiences around the world. I was very, very lucky and privileged in so many ways. But I really have to say that until I got to breath work, which was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I very luckily rang some friends of mine who are friends of Anthony's. Anthony happened to be there in the kitchen, and I was in a pretty bad state, having another cycle really, and had lost all my money in my house and all of that kind of thing, was back to zero. And Anthony said, look, I really think that you should try this and come on the course. And because he was aware of the fact that I was holding circles and doing ceremonies and all of that kind of thing for many, many years. But it was the breath work that really, really got me to the core of the trauma. In other words, the the memory's still here now. It's still as fresh as it was. It's a very painful memory, but the difference 4 years on after breathwork is that the trauma is my friend. The trauma is my teacher. The person that committed this offense against me and all the others I have forgiven, and I see them as my teachers, and I have huge compassion for them. I have huge compassion for the men that beat us. And it gives me, it's so amazing to get to a point where the triggers that used to be so visceral and overwhelming in their power, the triggers are still there, but they don't overpower me. They don't stop me in my tracks. And I really put this down to the simplicity of the breathwork, the commitment to just turning up and finding out what's going on inside and connecting with the source. And it's been really interesting for me to see how all my work in ceremonies, which also began at the same time that I started really going into therapy when I was 30, how these two worlds have collided. So how to make sense of this and what is ceremony? Well, ceremony is incredibly simple. It can be very complicated, but the sort of ceremonies I do are very simple. We turn up in some kind of context. It could be sitting in a circle. It could be coming together to pray. It could be coming together to do very specific things, as we used to do in Australia with the Aborigines. And it's that particular ceremony that I want to focus on. And many of you have kind of had glimpses into this. Some of you have done the whale ceremony with me live. Some of you have heard some of the music that I play, the chants that come from this place. So I'll just give you a little background on that. And then I'm going to start going into a little bit of the music. We're going to get up, we're going to move a bit, we're going to close our eyes, we're going to dive into what these chants actually are about and what they're saying. And I hope that I'm not going to be talking too much and you'll start to have a little bit of the experience. So I guess I've got to keep an eye on the time. And look, we'll get to wherever we get to. I was called to Australia by a shaman, by a druid in Ireland, who had been visited in a dream by an aboriginal whale elder. And he was visited by this elder actually in Glastonbury, where he was meditating. And this man was called Teri Yambulbul from the Waramiri people from Elcho Island. And when I sat there at 5 a.m. around this kitchen table in Ireland, he told me that I should go and visit these people. And this led me to a cave in southern Australia with a group of about 80 indigenous elders. And in this cave, we gathered and they shared a ceremony of reconnection to the whales, being a symbol of our reconnection with nature, our need to forgive one another as the whales have forgiven us, because our whole industrial world was built on the near extinction of whales. I think we killed 75 or 80 million of them. And they go back as the greatest minds in the water in the cosmos for 50 million years. And they're big breathers, as you all know. So in this ceremony, it would be that we would gather and the men and women would be separated in two different circles in this cave called the Cave of Creation. And we would start singing, first the women and then the men. And then we would weave together. And the weaving of the song that you guys hear in these breathworks that I do with the whales is actually a chant of forgiveness, of collective forgiveness, of collective remembering who we are, and also a strong weaving of the need to forgive everything in history, everything that we've committed to ourselves, to each other, from country to country, from man to woman, from human to nature, human to God, or our God self, or however you want to call it. And a desire in the chant that when we do reconnect and remember that we can dissolve all the boundaries of our concepts of religion and country and race and all of these different things, and celebrate with one song the human family. So of course it is completely natural that then you think, well, my goodness me, the one thing that we all have in common beyond the culture, the race, the connection to whichever country we feel we belong to or tribe, is that we share one thing, and that is the in-breath and the out-breath, the being born and the dying. And then you might say, well, what has this got to do with trauma? For me, the traumatic events that happened to me that I described early on in my life, it felt like that was me, that it would always surface, that was the totality of my story. But when we do ceremony, and when we come together, and the same as when we breathe, we connect to something bigger than our story. And then you start realizing that the story part of it is a tiny part of it. And then you can start seeing the story of the trauma as a kind of, as that friend, as that teacher. It starts to sit in the circle, kind of in perspective. And that's why I love to breathe in ceremony, because kind of in ceremony, and it could be just simply that we're coming together to breathe together in a circle, to remind each other that we're all connected, that I'm breathing, yes, for myself, but I'm also breathing with the common family of humanity and seeking to connect, not in the story, but underneath the story, into the source of who we are, in other words, our true nature. And that's how I see these two things being so deeply connected. You know, one of the things that they always used to say in the breathing is that actually when we're breathing in this incredible energy, both through the mouth, from the ether, but also up from the earth through our feet. So actually when we're breathing in the connection to the Mother Earth, the kind of crystalline core of our planet. And when we're breathing out, we're opening up our crown to the magnificence of our true connection to all of the cosmos. And then never forgetting that actually that's contained in one single cell and in one single breath. And right now I see us as a collective family. You know, that breathing and breath work to me is sacred activism, because it is us collectively standing and saying we are connecting to our true nature beyond all of these stories, beyond whatever may be happening in the press, in the world, and it's got nothing to do with any of the politics or the rules or the laws or your idea of what COVID may be or it isn't. It's all utter nonsense, because there's something much bigger going on here, and I believe that every one of you in this room that has turned up is just a beacon of light, and that every time you take a conscious breath, both in and out, you're manifesting this incredible new world. So I would say that every single breath that you take is a ceremony collectively with everybody else. And I try and remember that. And when I do, even if I might be stressed or things getting on top of me or I feel overwhelmed, I go, wow, we've got this, you know. So that's why I keep turning up. That's why I keep trying to do my best. That's why I love to share these things. That's why I'm human. That's why I'm here. So, that's the background to all of this. So the good news is, for those of you who are dealing with people who've been through very, very traumatic experience, breathwork and ceremony really, really help us, really help us put in perspective even the most ghastly, horrible, violent, overwhelming experience, and we miraculously can get over it, can live beyond it, and have a life beyond it. And this is miraculous. And I say this also in the context of the bigger picture, because this gives me hope for our world and the future of humanity. So I'd like you to close your eyes, and I'm going to share a prayer that was spoken by Jose Arguelles, who is a dear, dear friend of mine who I used to do ceremonies with in the days out of time and the convergences. And what I'd like you to do is just really close your eyes and really breathe in the 7 directions. You don't have to turn to them, because you are always in the 7 directions. So let's share this together and see how it feels. And by the way, it's a real honor to know you all and to be with you all. I feel really blessed to be in this family. Thank you. So close your eyes. From the east, the house of light, may wisdom dawn in us, so we may see all things in clarity. And the east is red colour, it's the fire, it's a candle, it's the rising sun. And its expression is gratitude at the start of each day with your breath. And from the north, the house of night, may wisdom ripen in us, so we may know all from within. In the north is the colour of white, it is water, so place a bowl of water in this direction. Water is so important, so use water. Whenever you drink it, thank it, and remember that water has intelligence, and so you can really work with water in all your healing, in all your ceremonies. And from the west, the house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed by right action, so we may do, all of us, what must be done. And the west is black, it's air, it's incense. And it is from this direction that the wind blows at sunset. So gratitude is always given for the winds that bring insights when we sleep, and for the birds who come to us in our dreams. Listen to the sound of the birds. And from the south, the house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. The south is yellow earth, the rocks, the stones that represent all the ancestor beings. It's where the fertility comes. It's Mother Earth, Gaia. And right now this is a very, very important direction. Feeling our Mother Earth, so that she knows that we care and we understand her pain. And if you feel overwhelmed, just breathe really deeply and she will support you. And from the house of heaven, where the star people and the ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. And from below the house of the earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. And from the center of the galactic source, which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. Om Yam Honapku. So as we breathe, it is divine activism. And the more we breathe consciously in every moment, the more we can breathe in this energy and breathe out what we would like to see manifest in our world. And when we gather in a circle or we gather in a breathwork, you know, the power of the collective, both for healing, for support, for breakthrough, for remembrance, is very, very powerful. And this prayer will always ripple out, and no matter how seemingly insignificant. This has huge potency and huge power. And I can see this miracle in my own life. I still get emotional. I feel intensely, and I'm very grateful for that, because it tells me I'm alive and I care and I feel. So don't be scared of deep emotions. Just breathe into it and expand with it, because it's in that space that the miracles happen. So going back to that cave with the grandmothers and these mourning people, you know, they're constantly doing ceremony for this balance to come back into the earth. What I'd like to do, and I'm known classically for my absolute grasp of all things technical, so I'm going to share some of the music that I play in these whale ceremonies. And I thought the first one we could do, since I've been talking a lot and we've done this beautiful prayer, but I feel like it's the start of this flow today. So how about I put something on which is the beginning of a whale ceremony chant, and it's got a good beat, and I think that we should shake. And what I'm encouraging you to do is not just shake and move a bit, but also use your voice and let's just get loose and let go a bit, because, you know, all things can get a bit serious when we're talking about trauma. Okay, I'm going to open Spotify, and the people that are singing this, we recorded this chant in the cave of creation in the Nullarbor, and then we put a funky bass line with it. And I really like to shake to this track, but it's also got a really beautiful, there's a really good chant. So we'll just do this for a few minutes, and then I'm going to do another invocation, and then I'm just going to take you through one or two more things, and then hopefully by the end of it you'll feel glowing or something, or at least your cells will be going, oh, this feels good, this feels nice. Okay, so this is called Jidara, and by the way, Jidara is the symbol of the white whale. And there are two very interesting white whales in Indigenous. There's the Waitaha in New Zealand, the people of the white whale. That's a very beautiful story. But this is the aboriginal one. And the Jidara story is the story of the Southern Gate and keeper of all of this whale magic. And the return of Jidara always signified the time of the Great Awakening of humanity. And Jidara came in the form of a whale called Migaloo, who's a white humpback whale who's going up and down. Actually, it's on the west coast at the moment. And so that's who they dance to when you hear this song. And some of you will be familiar with this. So dance, eyes closed, really get into it, move, shake, whatever, and let's get ready for these amazing breathworks that are coming later. Oh, and I've got to share my screen, and I've got to share my computer sound, and I'm going there. Okay. And here we go. Everyone here okay? So I really encourage you to put your feet on the earth. Take your shoes off if you're wearing shoes, and remember who you are. And this was recorded in the cave. You can hear the echo. So he's calling for reconciliation, for forgiveness, remembering who we are, divine beings. Woo. So a really good one is to go really open your mouths and feel your chest expanding with the sound and vibrate all your cells. The ceremony is just really about moving, dancing, shaking and connecting. That's all it is. And then in that we breathe the frequency of love for all beings in all the worlds. Really open your lungs and feel the earth, Mother Gaia supporting you. Warriors of the earth, warriors of light, warriors of love, all of you, powerful beyond measure, dreaming in the new world with every breath, a divine inspiration, divine activism. How's everyone feeling? Good-o. You know, if we were together, we'd have so much fun. I mean, we are together, but I look forward to I like to have a good time, you know. in these ceremonies, in these circles. It's a lot of fun. It's deep and it's fun. That's how it should be. You know, it's really interesting time to be alive. Just going back to the trauma ceremony, I want to share a quick story. I lived in California for a while, and every Monday I would go to a sweat lodge run by an elder called Wolf up at the Wrights Ranch in Malibu, where I had a house up in Payuma Road. And you know, this amazing man was sharing the ceremony of the Inipi, the sweat lodge, with gang members from East LA. And you know, you cannot imagine a group of young men and women who most of them had experienced a family member being murdered, often in really brutal circumstances. And you know, I remember when a new group would arrive, and just the anger, the fear, the terror, and then just this amazing, you know, ceremony of giving it back to the earth, of sitting in the darkness in prayer, in reverence, and then reconnecting to the earth. And I saw miracles over those years. And I've seen miracles with this particular group in Australia who were declared extinct, and their land of their well dreaming was given to another tribe who had suffered because many thousands of them had been incinerated by 18 nuclear explosions, and their land is devastated for 250,000 years. So, you know, in the context of individual and collective trauma, we are in the kind of ultimate time of trauma. And so this work that you all do, that you've all been called to, you know, it's really truly amazing what can be achieved with breathwork, as you already know, as you're finding out. And I just encourage you to feel into the element of that sacredness of it, of the sacredness of ceremony. And all of you are ceremony leaders, you know, you may not know that, but we're here together, so you just are, you know. It's like, it's just a question of understanding where you sit on the earth. And, you know, I thank my trauma now, you know, I thank that experience. And, you know, when I was younger, I wanted it to go away. That's why I took drugs and drank, and I'm very lucky to be alive. But I am alive. And the trauma itself doesn't go away. The experience is in my system, but the effect of it no longer controls my life. Now that is a miracle. So for those of you that have that kind of background or something similar, and you're working with that, know that you'll get beyond it, but it's always going to be there, in my view. So don't try and erase it, eradicate it. Make friends with it. Invite it to sit in the circle with you. And that if you come across people and clients that are in this position, that is really helpful to put their story in the context of a bigger circle, of a bigger picture, of a bigger humanity. And I think you'll be really amazed at what you can achieve. And so I really encourage all of you to find your own ceremony, and that's just it, you know. Make it yours. I always say this to the people that I've been working with, you know, that you're all amazing, you're all unique, you've all got beautiful voices, you've all got something to share, because you all have a heart. And, you know, I reckon the only job is to get out of the noggin and get into those big hearts of yours, and we can collectively change the world, until suddenly we're going to turn around and the whole world will be doing a beautiful frequency of love ceremony together. It'll happen, the 100th monkey. We're probably that close to it, even though it's looking pretty dire. Wow. there were so many things that I wanted to do today. I had all these, I was going to show you like a trailer. I was going to show you the people that sang the chant, and I was going to do this and that and play loads of music, and I've just ended up only doing one piece of music, and I've been banging on. So please, forgive me for that, because I wanted to share more of the music, but I'm around, so we're going to get to meet, so we can go deeper into what the ceremony is. And I love to share the music and chanting and all of that. So there's that thing. So I just thought it would be really beautiful to end this, what is known as a presentation, I believe, with something that was spoken by the elders at this gathering all those years ago. And very, very beautiful, amazing group of people, all of whom had come from really traumatic spaces where their land had been taken, where their culture had been destroyed, where people had been murdered, and all this sorts of very, very brutal stories. But there was a kind of an amazing feeling of optimism at the end. And this was shared at the end as an invocation, and some of you've heard it before, but I reckon it can take a few tellings, this one. So it's called Children of the Earth. So I think for this, maybe what we do is close our eyes again, and let's just take 3 breaths together. Let's just really tune in, and let's see if this resonates with us all. So close your eyes, please. And 3 deep breaths. Just keep your eyes closed. Invocation. Brothers and sisters in eternity, shake your souls awake. The hour so long waited for, the promised hour has come. For over the dark firmament of suffering humanity is rising Yajilia, the morning star, heralding the day when humanity's greatest duty is to be human. And that is to manifest life, intelligence, truth, and love. There is no higher aim. There is no vaster challenge. And you who realize this will now break the fetters that ignorance and fear have bound unconscious humanity. Brothers and sisters, stand up free, knowing yourselves to be the eternal manifestation of the unmanifest, witnesses of the absolute, and sons and daughters of that great all, whom you like to call God. So just breathe in and breathe your prayer to the world, knowing that every single divine breath and thought you have ripples out and makes a difference. You are the manifest and the unmanifest. You are everything. And you have this incredible divine spark inside of you. You just need to get out of the way and breathe. Thank you for joining me in this.